Iran. First speaker is Mr. Parviz Dastmalchi, who is the author of 25 books on constitutional law and also human rights, and translation of 5 books, including I Don't Know Anything from Karl Popper. Please take the floor. Macro. I appreciate the invitation that Südwind has tendered to me. I will speak today about the deprivation of the nation from its sovereignty rights according to the Islamic Republic Constitution. Why do I speak about this? Because the universal equality of all human beings before the law and the sovereignty of the nation in democratic elections are recognized rights in accordance with the International Declaration of Human Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I will explain why the Islamic Republic Constitution is incompatible with the sovereignty rights of national sovereignty rights and also the Universal Declaration. I will not speak for the moment about the guardianship of the jurists that actually presume that sovereignty belongs to God. And I will not also examine either the preamble of the Constitution. I will only speak about the most fundamental institutions and organs in the Constitution, summarily, actually. The most important institutions and organs that are provided for in the Constitution, from the most important to least important, are the Council of the Experts that has 86 actually clergy members. Why is this assembly the most important institution? Because it does elect the leader of the country. He is the religious and political leader of the system, and he's according to many principles of the Constitution, including the article number 109, he detains almost all the political power. Following the leader, we have the Council of Guardians that has 12 members, 6 clergymen elected and appointed by the leader, and 6 Muslim lawyers that are indirectly appointed by the leader. Then we have the head of the judiciary, who is a clergy appointed by the leader, and then the head of the High Court, the Supreme Court, that is also a clergy elected, appointed by the leader. Then there is the Presidency, the Islamic Consultancy Assembly, and then continue. In the first examination, I'll divide these institutions in 2. There are one group of these institutions that can only have clergymen as members. They include the leader, the Guardian Council, the Assembly of Experts, the head of the Supreme Court, and also the General Prosecutor of the country. These are fundamental institutions that are the most important and the highest level in institutions that are only open to Islamic jurists and clergymen. This means that first, so all persons who are not Muslims cannot be appointed to these institutions. Zoroastrians, Jewish nationals, Christians, they are all actually Iranian citizens, and they work in Iran, and they also pay taxes, and they are part of the nation. Second, we have in Iran between 10, the numbers are not clear, at least 10 or 15 or 20 million Sunni Muslims. All of them, be they men or women or clergymen or not, they are deprived of the right to be appointed to these institutions. Because the Sunni Muslims don't have a clergyman in the sense the Shias have. Afterwards, 50% of the society, women, they are deprived of the right to be appointed to these institutions because they cannot reach this they cannot get this title of Islamic jurist. So this is 50% of the society. So a Muslim duodeciman Shia, a male, and someone who believes in the guardianship of the jurist. So people who are really close to the system, they can still not be appointed to these institutions because they are not Islamic specialists in the sense of that is actually required for these institutions. So if we presume that Iran has 80 million people, population of 80 million, and if actually we presume that we have 80,000 Islamic specialists, but they are in reality they are far less, we will note that 99.9% of Iranian nation are deprived of the right to, they are not eligible to these most important constitutional institutions, only because they are not Islamic specialists in the sense required by the Constitution. The Islamic Republic institutions are partly exclusively restricted to Islamic jurists, and the other part are open to some other persons as well. Now I will speak about this second part of institutions. But these are only in appearance opener because what they dispose of are not actually fundamental to power. One of these institutions is the Islamic Consultancy Assembly or the Parliament. According to the law, all citizens can actually access to this institution. Here we don't have those divisions between men and women or distinctions between Shia or no Shias or Muslim or non-Muslims. If they had not divided the society as they have done to, and if there was no actually vetting system that restricts the elections, if we had all the conditions necessary to democratic elections, this is not actually the case, but let's presume. So the nation elects 260 deputies to the parliament. But the Islamic Assembly, without the Guardian Council, has no legal value actually. So those 290 representatives actually have no power compared to those 12 members that are appointed by the leader to the Guardian Council. So if there is no Guardian Council, the parliament has no power to do anything. And then all the acts adopted by the parliament should be sent to the guardianship council. So, which means that whatever is adopted actually or decided by the representatives of people should be sent to the representatives of the leader to see if they are compatible with Islamic rules. And it's only the majority of the jurists who are sitting there who can decide if those laws or acts are compatible with Islam, which means that 290 representatives of the nation, they don't have any power as compared in the face of the 4 Islamic jurists in the Guardian Council. If they don't agree on a law, the Constitution provides for another council, which is called Expediency Council, that does the arbitration work between these 2 institutions. And then the members of the Expediency Council are actually elected by the leader. So we can say that 290 members of the parliament are facing 4 members of the Guardian Council. And if there is a disagreement between the 290 members of the parliament have to face the members of the Expediency Council who are elected by the leader. So consequently, we are facing an institution in the Islamic Republic. I'm speaking of the parliament. Although this institution is not governed by the Islamic jurists, we should say that in practice, the legislative works goes to the 4 members of the Guardian Council, the Islamic jurists who are appointed by the leader, or the Expediency Council who are all elected by the leader. So the sovereignty rights of the Iranian nation is really disregarded in contradiction with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The next institution is the Presidency. The Presidency, in accordance with the Constitution, is not restricted to the Islamic specialists or jurists, but the relevant provision says that the president should be one of the religious rajal. Rajal is the plural for rajal. Rajal has 2 meanings, personalities or men, in the sense of male human beings, which means the president should be either a recognized religious personality or a man actually who believes in the Shia religion. This means that all non-Muslim Iranians are deprived of the right to be elected as president. And all Sunni Muslims in Iran, who are between 10 and 15 million Iranians, and who contribute to Iranian society and economy, they are deprived of the right to being president because only Shia Muslims can become president. And then, in addition to that, 50% of society, meaning women, they cannot become president because the president should be either a religious personality or a man. In addition to this, according to the constitution, the president has a position, his position comes after the leader. He's the second executive authority in the country, and he implements the policies that are actually decided on by the leader. So you can see that while, for example, Khatami was president, despite of all the huge popular support that he had and the high number of votes he had, he said that I am only a person who takes care of the logistics as the president. You can see that during the Rouhani's president, let's assume that most Iranians in free elections voted for him. There is an expression in Iran that about engineered elections, which may actually implies some sort of fraud. Okay, let's assume that it was not even engineered, these elections. When a president has the vote of the majority of the nation, he should decide on policies. No military authority from the Guardians of Revolution should be able to oppose what he's saying, because military men, they are appointed by the leader, but they have no democratic legitimacy. In all democratic countries, actually military forces are under the supervision of politicians, because the politicians are elected by the nation. And they must all be under the supervision of the politicians. So, in the Islamic Republic Constitution, 99.90% of the society is excluded in the from the most important institutions. If we assume that the elections are actually free and fair, where there is no such restriction directly, there are indirect restrictions that actually limit the access of the general public. And this is the case especially for the judiciary, which is completely under the control of the Islamic jurists. So to summarize, I should add that according to the Article 4 of the Constitutions, all civil, economic, administrative, cultural, and all other laws of the country should be based on Islamic rules. And the Islamic jurists in the Guardian Council decide on this compatibility. Human rights and sovereignty rights of human beings are actually the achievement of modern democracies. They are actually, the modern democracies are based on these achievements. The apartheid system in South Africa was dividing human beings to whites and blacks. Whites had all the rights and the blacks didn't have any rights. The Islamic Republic divides Iranians to 7 groups and actually provides for the discrimination and privileges according to those categories. So we have those Islamic Jews who benefit from all rights, and there are also some people who can be killed without punishment. So this constitution is somehow a reaction that goes back to before the constitutional revolution in Iran, and also the French Revolution of 1789. Contrary to all democratic systems where we have a actually division of power and distinction of powers, in the Islamic Republic we have a mixture and mingling of all powers, and the ideology that governs the system takes the society and the government towards a totalitarian system. It does actually, in appearance, yield to certain democratic rules and procedures, but with the vetting of elections candidates, which is the main key actually to the preservation of the power of the Islamic jurists, who are the most conservative and reactionary part of the conservative groups in Iran. In the assembly of experts that appoints the leader, there are people like Fallahian, who has an international arrest mandate behind him, and people like Dori Najafabadi, who had actually ordered chain murders of political opponents in Iran.